Scary Alvarez is back and back quickly. This is a transfer portal emergency pod. Some very, very big news coming out of Madison. Please like and subscribe before we get going here. Really appreciate it. As my previous episode had established, we have a lot of big-time visitors in Madison this weekend, headlined by quarterback Colton Joseph. I had lamented the fact that it was 15 degrees and freezing, but that's just, you got to play with the pieces you got. But the day is not done, and certainly the portal is not done. I'll go into some positions that were not targeted this weekend that we are rumbling forward on. But it has been an outstanding weekend for Luke Fickell and his staff. There are still some pieces to go today, potentially a wide receiver signing later. I don't know that for sure, but let me break down what has been an exhilarating weekend of portal recruiting for the Badgers. Going to go into all the players they have so far committed. The centerpiece is Colton Joseph, quarterback, Old Dominion. I did a very deep dive breakdown show on him on Friday. A couple days ago, that's still up. Check it out. Goes into a little more detail than I'm going to get into now. But this was the big domino, as I had noted in my last one. Strong arm, fast kid, 21 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, which don't jump off the page last year for Old Dominion. But his 1,000-plus yards and 13 touchdowns on the ground have Jeff Grimes, Luke Fickell, and the rest of that Badger staff absolutely salivating. He gives Wisconsin an arm-foot combination that they have not had since Russell Wilson. I'm going to stop myself or anyone else there. I'm not saying this guy is Russell Wilson. He absolutely is not. This guy is tremendous as far as his upside, and his production so far has been very impressive. There are some holes in his game that he has to keep working on. The good news is he has 2 years of eligibility left. 2 years, guys. That's a huge deal. So already, for a couple of reasons, not the least of which the fact that he works into the Grimes scheme really well as a good running quarterback, he has eligibility beyond the one season. That's a big break from the past. I shouldn't use the word break when talking about Wisconsin portal quarterbacks. It's bad juju, but hopefully he can remain healthy. But anyway, Colton Joseph, who, by the way, was the 2025 Conference USA Player of the Year on offense. People wanted him, guys. You were not going to see more butthurt fans and podcasters than the Florida State folks right now. The unattractive lady just stole their man. Basically, is how they're regarding the Badgers. It's just hilarious cope, and I love it. Anyway, centerpiece, Colton Joseph in the fold for the Badgers. Awesome. I'm going to go through these not in any particular order. I'm going to give you some information about the guys they have committed so far, and then we'll go from there. Abu Sama, running back. If I butchered the name, I apologize. I'll make amends with him. Iowa State. He has 1 year left, so he's a senior. I think that's actually a good situation because Wisconsin has like Contavious Wiggins and some other guys in the room still that I think if you bring in a sophomore or freshman transfer back who looks like he's the guy right away, you're going to have at least 1 or 2 more portal entries. You still could. But I think this is a good complementary piece. He is 5'11", 210, track speed, explosive and powerful. 732 yards and a 5.2 yard per carry average for a decent Iowa State team. Obviously, their coach headed off to Happy Valley, leaving a lot of guys looking for other places. One more in the Badger class I'm going to talk about in a moment. Yes, he was running in a more effective offensive system with a better, healthier offensive line. But this guy has moves and looks that no one on the Wisconsin Badgers has demonstrated for a fair amount of time. So I think he comes in, and what I think it'll be a committee of sorts. I think he's going to have probably at least 150 to 200 carries next year. He's going to be a bell cow-ish back that allows other guys to get some touches too. Big, gigantic pickup. That was their number one target, guys, and they got him. There are probably going to be some complimentary pieces. One complimentary piece coming in. There's a USC kid who's looking around, but this is the starter caliber guy. Carson Van Dinter, incredible Wisconsin Badger name. I just feel like it could have been like some kid from small town Wisconsin. Oh, he is. Kakua, Wisconsin native. 3 years left. He's another Iowa State refugee. Played in 11 games last season. I think he's flashed some upside. I don't think this is a complete player that comes in and is going to be some superstar right away. But he certainly adds to the room, the safety room. That is a room that we just lost Zachman to the Hoosiers. I mean, I get it, but I don't know. That was a little bit of a head scratcher in that Zachman would have been the unquestioned leader of the defense coming back, but maybe the guy just wants to win a college football playoff or something. So it's hard to fault him, but that was a surprising portal entry for the Badgers. Very surprising, actually. But Van Dinter, he checks a lot of the boxes. Pretty athletic kid, knows how to wrap up a tackle. And, for those who are screaming we don't have enough Wisconsin guys on the team, this is a small town Wisconsin as you can get. Just reminiscent of those guys that seemed like Christopher Bielema or Alvarez, McLean would always have a couple of guys like this in the fold. And he will be a robust part of a big competition. Would not be shocking to see him start next year. I don't think Wisconsin is done in the safety room in the portal, if I'm being brutally honest. But this is a nice addition for the Badgers. Eric Fletcher. This is the one that jumped off the page to me a little bit. And by the way, before I continue, I want to caution a couple of things with portals. Star rankings for recruits is a very inexact science. It tends to make sense only in the sense that if the 4-star recruits statistically do better typically than 3-star recruits, 5-star recruits statistically do better than 4-star recruits. It's just a fact. But in any given situation, the trend lines can be very skewed. The transfer portal star rankings, it's almost counterintuitive this is true, but they're almost more difficult because there are guys who are 4 or 5-star portal recruits who you've seen playing, these guys are not that kind of player. You already have evidence of it in college football. Whereas you have a little more under the radar guys, I guess, who are 3-stars who you've seen them compete at a high level at college and they can do it. So I caution you, look at the offers and interest. So Fletcher, for example, look at the schools who are looking at him rather than his 3-star, high 3-star portal rating. The Texas A&M Aggies, the Georgia Bulldogs, and the Clemson Tigers all reportedly very serious. I don't know if there are offers in hand, but they wanted to get this kid on campus. He went to Wisconsin, and they got him locked down. That, to me, says something. This is a pretty big guy, 6'1", 180. Definitely bringing him as a boundary guy. I mean, the cornerback room is pretty empty and barren right now, but this is a really good building block. I kind of like some of the other positions I'm going to talk about. They are not done at the cornerback position with this guy. This is just one, but this is the kind of guy, the kind of athlete, the kind of size that you want to get inside that room. And probably as important as anything, this guy has 3 years of eligibility left. This is not a plug-and-play for 1 year guy like so many of the dudes we got in the last couple of years. I think this gentleman has a legitimate chance to be a day one starter and perhaps a multi-year starter for the Wisconsin Badgers. So Eric Fletcher, Oklahoma State, really, really good pickup. This is probably my favorite pickup so far besides Joseph. Just an area of extreme need and a tone-setting move for a kid who a lot of good schools wanted. Okay, we're going to continue. Jacob Harris, tight end room. It's a big tight end. He's a pass catching tight end. I don't want to get into any of the blocking things, but this is a little bit like the kid Wisconsin got from Ball State last year, who couldn't tough it out in camp and transferred. Not the established playmaker he was, but he has the kind of ability. He had 5 touchdowns last year for Bowling Green in the MAC, 6'4", 255. So obviously he's not a ball of granite run blocking type. He's a pass catching type. Obviously, he'll have to learn more. But he's a junior, so a couple of years of eligibility. I looked a little bit at his highlights. Pretty fluid athlete and real dangerous around the goal line. Okay, this guy was not a high volume. I think he only had 200 yards last year, which actually would have been like 4th on the Badgers. That's how few yards Wisconsin had last year. But he was a prime target around the goal line. Again, 5 touchdowns and limited targets says that he's the kind of guy who can be a factor around the end zone. And that is something that we've been missing. Obviously, the tight end room has competition, McGowan, and there's a bunch of dudes, Grant Stack. So it could be a fun room. This is not a superstar, but this is someone who can come in and compete. And like some of these other guys, it would not shock me a bit if this guy gets significant snaps next year for the Badgers. Obviously, that's going to play out in camp, both in spring and fall. Got to stay healthy, but I do like him. Ryan Schwendeman is 6'5", 245, 2 years remaining. And Dylan Graff, who's been a friend of the show, has done a little bit of a deep dive on this guy. And I'm going to quote him on this. And by the way, Badger Notes, awesome stuff. Please subscribe, Dylan Graff. Great, real in the weeds kind of Wisconsin reporter. Calls him a physical, high-effort blocker in the running game who offers functional value in the passing game. Okay, he knows more about him than I do, just based on that line. But yeah, it's I don't say it's a lottery ticket, but it's a good guy to grab. 15 catches, 191 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's just another piece. He'll be a piece in the room, and with Lance Mason and Tucker Ashcraft gone, you got Stack, Bork, McGowan, a few other ones, and then you got Jacob Harris, who I just mentioned. You feel a little bit better going into your spring season with the room stocked a little more. So that's good to see. So there's still work to do. As I mentioned, there are, as I understand it, at least 1, perhaps 2 wide receivers on campus. There's been no announcement. There could be an additional wide receiver recruit transfer added to this Badger ledger sometime today, perhaps, but I don't want to comment on something that I don't have, but be on the lookout for that. Okay, very, very good first weekend. Kind of like with the big recruiting weekends in the spring and the summer, there are going to be kind of waves of these guys coming in. There are some positions that you will notice I didn't mention. One of them is offensive line. Another one is defensive line. And then we're holding out on the wide receiver thing. Have no fear. There's a lot of information percolating around that new offensive line coach, Eric Mateos, who I've already done a deep dive on, who came in from Arkansas. There are probably going to be a Razorback or Razorbacks on the offensive line added in the coming days to the Wisconsin Badgers. Also, defensive line, they're working on a ton of guys. Letton's working on a bunch of dudes there. So just because we have not filled the trenches this weekend with commitments, that's the fundamental bedrock of this team next year is going to be O-line, D-line play. There are going to be plenty of bodies brought in on both sides of that ball. And wide receiver, where it is a bit of a tough sell, I think it gets easier once you have Colton Joseph in. So be on the lookout for some wide receivers being added as well. I would be shocked if we did not add 3 bodies in the wide receiver room. Hopefully one of those gets announced today. Very hard competition. There are a few positions in the portal that are really, really, really tough and highly competitive positions with other teams. Wide receiver is one, cornerback is another, left tackle, and quarterback. The numbers are just very, very hard on all those things. So I think it's just a little more work going on, but there will be names. Anyway, this is all breaking news. This is going to be continued. Once this is up on YouTube, there'll be more things announced. So I'll do additional shows, but this is where we are early afternoon on Sunday, the 4th of January. Again, some very big commitments. for the Wisconsin Badgers in the transfer portal across several important positions, headlined by Colton Joseph. Great stuff. Anyway, stay tuned to the Wisconsin Badgers stuff I'm going to be covering here. And Scary Alvarez is out for now.